Hi, my name is Nate Gilbert. I'm an attorney in San Antonio, Texas, and today I want to address three big reasons why you should really consider who is going to be forming your LLC, PLLC, Series LLC in Texas, whatever it may be. The number one consideration is if the individual or company that you're working with has experience forming Series LLCs, PLLCs, or LLCs in Texas. There can be very unique requirements and things that need to happen, considerations that you need to take into account before filing any of these particular companies, that people that don't have experience filing these, even attorneys in Texas or attorneys that are licensed in Texas but may not reside here, any of that kind of stuff. I've seen some doozies, some Series LLCs that needed to be kind of reworked and haven't been effective, PLLCs that were formed with different members that really shouldn't be there. We want to make sure that those particular requirements are followed. So making sure when you ask, do you have experience filing a Series LLC in Texas? And can you answer some of these questions I have about those? Which kind of ties into our second consideration is what kind of support are you going to get? I really like to tell my clients and really anyone I talk to about entities in Texas that filing the entity with the Secretary of State is about 1% of the job. So doing that is not necessarily very difficult. The question you need to ask in that second consideration is what kind of support are you going to get during formation and explaining the formation documents like your operating agreement, your buy-sell agreement, or buy-sell provisions, what happens to membership interest in any certain instance like death, divorce, or disability. Explaining kind of your corporate book or resolutions and minutes that you need to have. And getting all those documents is one thing, but having them explained and getting that support is entirely another. So getting the support when it's formed and what happens later on. If you have a question, who do you call? Do you have a Texas attorney that can explain something like that to you? I get clients calling me all the time that after we form their stuff, whether it's 3 years ago or whatever, say, hey, you said something about a member meeting, if we could do it this way, or if we had to do a member resolution, and I'm happy to explain that kind of stuff. Find out what that support looks like. Who are you going to be able to call? Are you going to get a call center? Are you going to get an attorney in Texas? Are you going to get someone who can explain those documents, what your requirements are, and what you need to do? And that kind of ties into our third consideration is the person a licensed attorney in Texas. Now, there are rules that say that anyone can form an entity with the Secretary of State of Texas, right? You can have a CPA do it. You can have any number of companies that run online filing services or other individuals that are professionals in Texas can form that LLC in Texas for you. Now, that's, again, 1% of the battle, right? Getting it formed Secretary of State is not rocket science. That's a very simple part of the process. The LLC itself, the operating agreement, that is a contract. Do you want, a finance bro out in California that started this filing company drafting your contract that runs your company? Probably not, right? Like, we don't want that. We want those to be drafted by attorneys in Texas. So figuring out who's going to draft that document for you, right? Is it going to be a licensed attorney in Texas that drafts these internal documents that govern your relationship with the business, bestow your obligations and benefits that you receive, like every contract does? That's a very important consideration to take into account before you are all of a sudden signing these documents drafted by non-attorneys. So like I said, non-attorneys can form LLCs and entities with the Secretary of State's office. There's nothing legally wrong with that. Where it comes into play and where I think folks should be cautious is using an attorney for those internal documents. So your operating agreement, your buy-sell agreement. That buy-sell agreement is crucial because it's going to determine what happens to membership interest in the event of death, divorce, or disability. What can happen there? We want to make sure that membership interest is provided for and the company is protected and the other members are protected from something untoward happening with membership interest in those instances. So having an attorney you can talk with, having an attorney that can go over that stuff with you and that has been drafted by an attorney that meets Texas legal standards is going to be crucial in that aspect. So those are the big three things. Like I said, these are the big considerations I would take into account. People use a lot of different services. Maybe I'm biased a little as an attorney in Texas that forms LLCs. I do see a lot of people come to me and say, hey, can you fix this, LLC that my CPA did, or can you fix this LLC that I had an attorney out in California do? They didn't do the series language right. I don't think it was running correctly. I see a lot of that. I fix a lot of different companies for folks, so I want to make sure that we take those things into consideration when we're talking about forming the LLC, the Series LLC, or the Texas PLLC in the first place. If you have any questions, go to my website, schedule a consultation. I'm happy to speak with you about an existing LLC you'd like fixed or one you're thinking about starting.